good to go.
Well, for me, it's good afternoon, almost good evening. It's 6 o'clock in the evening. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's tuning in today. You found your way to the Sacred Wisdom Circle. We're linked together by the golden thread, lighthouses and beacons of truth, guiding the way. Through deep conversations and shared wisdom, we illuminate the path and heal through truth and or love. Well, not and or, and both love. Healing through truth and love. So welcome to everybody today, and we're just glad that you're with us. This in the northern hemisphere, which is really crazy because they now everybody's copying it down here. Halloween. It's the day of Halloween. So
Yes,
happy
we are.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone. Happy All Saints Day. What else is it? Um,
Sam Hain.
Samhain, that's the other one. And that's Irish, right? Samhain?
Celtic. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Celtic and
Celtic.
pagan.
Yeah. And then there's the Mexican All
No,
Souls
the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. Yes. And if you can say it in Spanish, bonus points for you.
I wouldn't even try. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about All Saints Day and the Day of the Dead. What does that actually mean? Because a lot of people have gotten all the Halloween kind of the tradition of Halloween all around costuming and tricking or treating, and there's actually quite significant spiritual meanings behind All Saints Day and Halloween itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm all ears to hear your wisdom, but also that what I know is that the veil is very thin right now.
Correct.
And when we say that, what we're meaning is that the connection that we can have between ourselves and ones who have passed is much easier. And I really think it has a lot to do with the collective energy of people remembering and thinking about their loved ones and ancestors and ones who have passed. So I think that collective energy and focus opens things up more.
And that's typically what my understanding of All Saints' Day is the fact that the veil is very thin at this time of the year. And it's quite interesting again, because in the Southern Hemisphere, we're not set, I mean, we're in spring. So Halloween and the energy of All Saints' Day is as part of the transition from fall, not yet winter, but it is going into the longer nights and the shorter days. And so at this time of the year, traditionally the veil is thin. And this is where, oh, I've got a bit of a cramp in my back. Sorry about that. Let me just move and get a bit more comfortable. And that is that it is much easier to communicate with those souls from the world of spirit, whether they are departed ones, whether they are from the angelic realm, whether they are your guides. It's a good time, but also please, 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 please remember to make sure that you're surrounding yourself in protection as you're connecting with the world of spirit, so that you are protected in your connection. And also make sure at this time of the year as well, while the veil is thin, this is not to scare people. These are not scare tactics. This is good spiritual practice, is to make sure that you are surrounded in protection, and especially when you go to sleep as we move out into sleep, and our unconscious subconscious actually moves in to connect us astrally with the world of spirit. So yeah, petition people from the world of spirit, particularly those that you have are loved ones from the world of spirit. They may or may not step forward. They still get the right to choose whether they will or whether they won't, but the likelihood is much greater because the veil is thin. That veil between spirit and matter is thin at this time of year. So that's also my understanding.
Yes, and just, honoring their memory. Like we are standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. I'm sure many
Correct.
people have heard that before, but we wouldn't be here without them. And so just being able to honor their memory in so many different ways. I know one friend of mine, one of the soulful line women in our community, was posting a beautiful kind of altar, a beautiful candles and roses and crystals that she created just to say, I remember you and thank you and for all you have given and brought forward for us. And so um and it doesn't even have to be like if you want to go deep into a meditation and connect with them, One way that I have done in the past is I have created in my meditation, I have created a huge hall with a great big banquet table and filled it with food, and then invited all my ancestors to come in and just enjoy. And I tell you, they love it. They just love it. They come in and they're laughing and talking, and they completely ignore me. They just have fun. So there's different ways, to do this, and it can be as simple as just hello and thank you. And I do remember that stand on your shoulders, that you have walked this path ahead and we've picked up where you left off.
And there's another ritual that you can actually conduct at this time of the year as well, and that is sending spiritual healing down your ancestral lines as well, so that the energies of the past 7 generations are healed into the present, and that we then are generating the energies that are needed for the next 7 generations without carrying generational karma going through with us as well. So there are many things you can do to honor those who are in the world of spirit. And when we start talking about Halloween, Halloween is also about endings and beginnings. The traditional teachings of Halloween are around endings and beginnings. And this year in particular is very interesting because we are in a 9 cycle year. So we've got that 9 of endings as well, together with what we are seeing with Halloween. So whatever you are wanting to bring to a close between now and the end of the year, please make sure that you're doing that so that you can move into 2026. And I think we've spoken about this before, that you can move into
Yeah.
2026 in new and fresh energies and the new beginnings of a new 9 year cycle. I think we spoke about that last week, if I remember correctly.
A little bit. But you know what would be really good is to give people an idea when you say, well, it's the 9 year, it's an ending of cycles, and think about what you want to finish up in your life. What are some like
So
examples and
I can
ideas
give
of
you,
that?
I can give you quite a good example for me, and that is releasing and surrendering any ideas of survival, of scarcity, letting that go, because we do live in an abundant universe. I know, Janice, you do a lot of teaching around manifestation, but we can be working with the energy of manifestation, but still holding on to old energies of
Oh
scarcity
my
and
gosh.
survival.
Can we just talk about that for a minute? Because that has been huge in my conversations this week. And this is perfect because it also ties into ancestral patterns that I believe we're here to release. But let's just talk about that for a minute, because that whole energy within our bodies, the fear of scarcity and survival, holding it in our bodies, it is disrupting our nervous system, dysregulating our nervous system, and nothing will come through in manifestations when our body is in a fight or flight or fear or tension majority of the time. So
Yep.
so here's the thing, like you can go into fear and worry and that sort of thing, but if that's your average output of your frequency, then that's what you're going to start pulling back in. So,
Yeah, and also, when we start talking about things like surrendering and letting go, for me, surrender is sur and render, handing over and above. Sur is over and above, so that I can be of service, as opposed to here I am, the victim kind of mentality that people think surrender is, where here's
right.
my white flag, I'm defeated. That's not what surrender is at all. And
No.
so when we start talking about what we want to release and let go, and we come back to the question of scarcity and survival, and the energy of thriving. It doesn't matter how many affirmations we do. We can do affirmations up the yin yang till we blue in the face. If we are still holding in our somatic bodies that energy of scarcity, those affirmations are not going to work. It's not because they don't work, it's because we are holding still onto old energies. And so, how do we release them? For me, the easiest way is through our breath, and
Mm-hmm.
using that deep inhale into our bellies, pausing, and then the exhale is quite a hard exhale. So it's like this, breathing in, holding it, and then the So we're actually releasing it out of our bodies as opposed to just a normal inhale and exhale. And so whenever that kind of fear triggered response, because it's all reptilian, it sits here in the back of the reptilian brain, when that fear response comes up, go straight into the breath, and it will assist you in releasing and helping you to surrender. Because
Mm.
it's certainly not who, certainly my understanding of higher power and of God, it's not who God wants me to be. God's universe is abundant. Oh, quite interestingly, did you see my pop up in the, we were talking about the human design last week, and I redid mine,
Oh,
and it was
no.
alchemist generator. So for me, it's about flowing in, not the external manifestation out.
Oh.
And we were talking about alchemy last week as well.
Well, and I heard somebody else mention something about an alchemist, whatever, and I'm like, I haven't heard that before in human design. Is this something new? Do
I
you know?
did which one did I do? I'd have to look it up. I forget what it is, but there's a piece before human, there's a name, a word before it. I'd have to look it up. It's the woman who worked with human design after the original designer passed on.
Karen
Lillian,
Parker?
yes, yeah, yeah. It's her. I did her one,
Okay.
and yeah. So what came out with there was the alchemist generator. And so coming back to scarcity again, with this kind of profile, if I'm trying to manifest, it's not going to happen because it's not my energy and my frequency. My frequency is to allow things to come into me. And holy cow, was that difficult to surrender and let go of, because we've been so programmed to do. We've been absolutely almost brainwashed that that's the only way that we're going to get to any form of material success. And
Right.
so things like the human design, it's not about this is who I am. It's a script that allows me to understand how I engage with the world. Because I still am connected to source and I'm still a child of a loving God. That's certainly my frame of any form of assessment is just a window into seeing who it is and also being aligned with the energy. So when I read it, it kind of blew my mind just because this year in particular, I have really attuned to that frequency of what the alchemist generator actually is. So yeah, it was very, very, very interesting. And so coming back to some of the things that we let go of, old stories, old beliefs that we've been repeating in our heads over and over and over again. One of my big ones was, I'm not seen, I'm not heard. Therefore, I don't matter. I'm not good enough, and therefore, I'm not enough. And therefore, my work is not good enough. My work doesn't matter, and my work is not enough. And those were deeply embedded beliefs that I've had to do a lot of work to bring to the surface. And I think that's an important thing as well, is when you're unearthing these erroneous beliefs, don't be afraid of them. Allow them to surface and then bring in the healing, because that's not who you are. This is an old story, certainly for me, that goes back to childhood, that I internalized as my belief system. And that's all it
Mhm.
is. It became a story, but that story became the way that I defined my truth. So when again we're starting to talk about the completion, the mastery of the number 9 in a 9 year, those are the kinds of things that we can release and let go. Can you
Yeah.
think of any examples yourself?
Oh, for sure. The scarcity survival, like that one has been a really big, it has just come up really strongly for me in the last month or two. And, it's something that I know I've held and worked through and done for so many times through all of this journey of being an entrepreneur, because it does keep coming up for us. But there's been some deeper layers in the last month or two that are coming up from recognizing and being more aware of, wow, there's some deep fear going on here in my body, and my body is becoming my communication device. It always has been, but it's more so right now because it will automatically go into the fear response no matter what is going on around me. It will slip into that because it's so patterned to be there. And
Correct.
so, and that comes from childhood. So for those that have had childhoods that did not feel safe, this is something that, is very prevalent. So
Yeah.
definitely there is that there. And when you talked about the new belief system of who you are and what I'm in the middle of rebranding soulfully aligned women. And this has been absolutely fascinating for me because it's time for soulfully aligned women to up level. And as I am recreating it, and the brand is that it is a movement, a collective of women and mentorship for women that want to lead in the world soulfully aligned and become prosperous and go out there. And so then it becomes a whole new identity for me at the center of this going, okay, this is not about me anymore. This is about promoting and showcasing other women and creating a community where they can connect together, where you can follow each other and that sort of thing. But then I need to up level my whole idea of who I am and what gifts I hold to be able to do this, to hold this bigger energy, this bigger expanded energy. So the new identity is very prevalent right now. And I mean, we're always shifting and changing and growing.
Yep.
And what worked for us a year ago is not working anymore. So it always was, every 7 years you want to recreate yourself. And if you just look at pop stars, Madonna,
Mm.
and I was
Mm.
reading about Cher and how she recreated her identity many times. They know this. They have to keep recreating and evolving into something new and fresh and growing into their next level self.
Yeah.
We do too. Just because we're not on stage doesn't mean that we don't evolve and create new identities. So whether it's in your business, in your brand, or in your life, it's time to up level into the new identity. The new human is what a lot of people are saying.
I want
Yeah.
to circle back to something that you said, and that is the fact that some of these beliefs that we hold up keep resurfacing again. And for very many people, myself included, there was a time where I thought, oh no, not this again. I've done all this work and I'm just circling back into the same thing. My understanding, though, today is different. It's that we are iterating upward, and you've mentioned it in what you were saying, is that each time we shift upward, those inherent beliefs that we've inherited, and I believe that they're not only from childhood, they're also past life because they're so deeply embedded, that each time they surface, they're coming in at a different layer and level, as you mentioned, with a different lesson and a
Yes.
different almost peeling away of yet another series of veils so that we can get closer and closer to the truth each time they come up. So instead of kind of going into the, oh my heck, I've done so much work and here it is again and I'm stuck, which is still going into almost that victim space. And I've done it, I've been there, I think we all have. Um, it's more around the mirror is being held up again for me to heal some other aspect of how this shows up in my space. So that was the one thing that I wanted to say. And then
Yes.
the other thing that you're talking about, in terms of it's not even so much as reinventing ourselves. There's a couple of things you said. It's about remembering. We are tuning into the remembering at a higher vibration and a higher iteration, and that's why our brains will go and reinvent themselves. What's also interesting that you spoke about two things. First off, the wounds, those wounds that we sit in our sacral chakra, and that's where we need to be doing the releasing from, is from the sacral chakra, because that's the womb. The wounds are held within the womb. And the interesting shift that's going on from what's been coming through on Business Yogi for me as I've descended through the chakras, we've got 13, not the north, not the 7, and also not the 12. There's 13. I can't tell you why there were 13, but there were 13. So when we get down to the 13th chakra, which is the earth root, and this again is what Spirit has gifted or given through me, not by me. The root chakra is standing in our sovereign. So we heal the wound in the sacral. We move into the earth chakra, which is where we identify with who we are, and we root that into the ground. And the earth root chakra, because if you think about the roots in the earth, they are like this lattice that runs underneath the surface of the earth. And what that lattice is all about is connection and community. So
Yeah.
as we're bringing in the movements that link to community and connection, we are tapping into the earth's root chakra and becoming more and more even embedded into the earth itself. This is
Right.
where the divine feminine is really anchoring and rooting through all of those in community into the earth. And with the kind of momentum that it's gathering, I think the patriarchy is going to have a very hard time trying to shut it down. I
Oh,
don't,
yeah,
that's
for sure.
really happening again. So
There's
yeah, that's the shift.
Yeah, it is totally. And another way of looking at it, a way that came in through spirit for me was also remembering that these downloads are coming in, new, downloads, new light, new frequencies coming in and into our DNA. And what happens is it comes in through that channel, through the upper chakras, down into, and and if we are holding trauma and fear and wounds in the belly, in the sacral, in the womb space, in the lower chakras, it bumps up against that because the channel's not clean and clear. And so that is why these fears are bubbling up. It's the
Yep.
next level of energy coming in, and it's causing us to uh, recognize and awaken to these things that are going on. And it's also one thing you said was the mirror is held up for me. So for many of us, that mirror is money, right? Money becomes the mirror. It's not
Yep.
about the money. It is simply that we have attached our feelings of safety and security to money when we need to release that and bring it into our groundedness into the earth and our sense of safety and security from our alignment and our attunement into the core of who we are. And
Yeah.
so that has been very, very clear over the last few years from my guides too. But that is another reason why grounding practices are so important, right? To calm that dysregulated nervous system. So coming back to that. So, what I want to say too, before because we're just like, going down channels here before we move too far, is that mirror, for me, it has been money. My entire life has been scarcity. Well, I can't say my entire life because it's not as much anymore. But that's what I grew up with, scarcity, worries about money, worries about how we're going to get groceries and survive the next week. And so for me, it was always like, well, if I could just get rich, everything would be fine, right? But for anyone else, that mirror could be relationships, right? It could be your finding your purpose or your what you're giving to the world. It could be, and through our lifetime, many times it is all of these things. But I find that people have one big core thing that their soul is working on, and it's either money, health, or love. One of those. And so, which strand is your soul evolution, mission in this lifetime? And that becomes the mirror of reflecting back into you of where your work is, where
Yeah.
you need to release and find that acceptance, that love, that love for yourself and the feeling of safety within your own self rather than on any external
External.
circumstance.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, for me, and I absolutely subscribe to what you're saying. For me, I have the enmeshment of two. I have the money and the relationships. They're enmeshed. The one speaks to they each speak to each other. But the root of it both is still scarcity.
Yeah, right, right,
And
very
so
much.
there's not
Well, and
enough,
scarcity
there's
of
not enough
love,
time.
right?
There's not enough time, there's not enough love, there's not enough money, there's not enough this, there's not. So anywhere that not enoughness is coming up, or I need more of, look to the belief that's sitting underneath that. And look
Yeah.
to the intention that sits around that as well. And so it's only been through a lot, just like Janice, a lot of work. Um, that, and the channel's not clear all the time because these triggers can be triggered by anything, any external event or people, place, thing, something that you may see, something that you may watch, something that somebody says to you. I know when I had an incident this week where I was very triggered by something that had happened within the workspace with a client and one of his clients. And I was very triggered. And and I'm going to excuse my language here, I won't say the word in full, but I do an FU walk to get rid of the energy. I was stomping around the neighborhood going, F this and F that and F the next thing. But I want to tell you that it works. It works because
I'm totally laughing because I was doing it in my vehicle driving. Yep,
it
I was there.
absolutely works. With the walking on two levels, I mean the stomping for so verbally I'm getting it up and out. The energy is not sitting in my body.
Mhm.
Secondly, the walking is the earth is absorbing the energy because that's what she does.
Yes.
So, and it's like walking in the labyrinth. You know, when you walk in a labyrinth with they talk about the labyrinth practice of walking in with the problem, standing in the center of the labyrinth and asking higher power spirit for the answer and then walking outward. And normally on the outward walk you get the answer.
Yeah.
Well, my if you walks around the neighborhood, halfway around is this just uttering all these expletives about this and about that and this person and that person and the next thing. And generally halfway through the walk, I can already feel my somatic body starting to calm and relax.
Yeah.
And I mean, 2 weeks ago, I did it. I was railing at God and going, I don't know what it is with you. I do all this work. I do all this inner work. I do all this outer work. Other people seem to be getting all of this manifestation. Nothing's happening for me. This was before I read about the generative alchemist. Nothing's happening for me. And then I said, and I'm going, I have all the faith, all the trust, the willingness. And then I just heard this voice coming from, and what about the patience?
Well, and the self-judgment too, right? Yeah, I only say that because I hear you. I'm right beside you. And that is, that is the work is like, okay, well, are you doing this for safety and security or service, right? I'm like, ah, dang it,
Oh
got me
my God, what
again.
it means to be human, I have to just say, there's the humility coming in as that reminder. Oh yeah, we don't walk on water. We're not saints yet. We still are living in this human world. And I think, that for me has become a big lesson in just acceptance as well, is that we have this misnomer around the fact that we walk a spiritual path and we're supposed to walk on water and that we're
Right.
supposed to be, supposed to be perfect. Well, heck no. No, that's still very far off. I
Yeah.
think the joy, though, and this is, there's two things. The fact that we can laugh at ourselves is the one. And the second thing is that this life is all about learning. That's what we're here to do. We're here to learn. I'm laughing so hard, my nose is running.
Oh, well, laughter is really good. But you mentioned a couple things when we talked about regulating the nervous system through breath. And
Yep.
and I have like over 40 meditations of breath and visual and grounding and like bringing all that together. But moving the body is the other thing, like
Yep.
walking or exercise or dance, right? And laughter, like bringing more joy. And I was thinking about this yesterday. It's like, okay, I'm regulating my nervous system, but am I feeling joy in life? Not at the moment.
I'm laughing about, yeah, we've got the checklist.
Yes, that's right. Right? I'm doing all
Oh,
the things.
I told you that I'd started a column in my Substack. I haven't posted very many, but it's about the laughing yogi,
Right.
which is just to laugh at the ridiculousness of how we actually walk this path. It is just too
It
funny for me.
is. Oh my
And
gosh. And
it's
I got a visual the other day I was half awake, half asleep, and started like drifting up into the ethereal higher dimensions. And I could see all us humans down here in this thick, heavy energy trying to put square pegs in round holes. And it just like in my state of mind, it was just kind of like, this is ridiculous. What are we doing? But then you wake up and you're immersed in it and you just, yeah, this
Yeah,
human walk,
yeah, I just love Einstein's definition of insanity, and that's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
right? We do it.
Round and round and round
Oh
and
my
round.
gosh. Yeah. But the laughter, my husband and I were just, having a break sitting on the couch the other night, and I had my phone out and a funny video came on, so I started showing it to him. Well, and then we started watching all the funny videos, like scrolling past all the serious ones to get to the funny ones, the animal ones, the cats, the dogs, and all this thing. And I don't know, there's a really funny one of a Halloween for animals that are sneaking up to porches to get treats and something moves and scares. So, anyways, we just kept finding all these funny videos and we were laughing so hard. He has a cold and he starts coughing uncontrollably. I'm crying, I'm laughing so hard. And it was
Yeah.
just, it felt so good. And so like bringing that joy in because it's interesting because I think it might have been that day or the day before where I was thinking like, joy. Okay, I have not been feeling enough of that. Gratitude, yes. Appreciation, love my life, love my lifestyle, but actual joy, right? That is something else. That's a whole other
And
frequency.
And it is a higher frequency than most.
Yeah.
It is one of those ones that are resonating at a much higher frequency, and so that's certainly a gift I have noticed more and more through this last year. In fact, is how much more joy has come in. I mean, as I say, laughing yogi was birthed out of this year and starting to experience the ability to laugh at myself, let alone laugh at anybody else. It's this beautiful gift of being able to laugh at myself and stopping taking. So here's something else that I can let go of in this year of nine, and that's this taking myself so freaking seriously.
Yeah. I
um,
absolutely need to do that too because I am more of a serious like head down, let's get to work. I love working. I'm a workaholic, but I love what I do. So then it's like I've got to pull myself out of that a little bit and find some
yeah.
joy and play.
There's a teaching I heard. Oh, this is going to come out quite funny. There's a teaching that I heard a little while ago around the fact that because we live in our heads so much, we get mentally constipated, and that's not where we go. we,
I haven't heard that before. Mentally constipated. Yep.
we're stuck here, and we're not actually tuning into the rest of our energies and energy bodies, and so
Well, and that's a huge part of manifestation. And you will hear this over and over. Napoleon Hill and James Allen, they all said, go and play. Like once you have done what you can do, go play. And they talked about going to the golf course. Well, I don't golf, but go have fun,
I
right?
don't think of anything worse than chasing a little white ball
I
around
know.
18 holes for
So
five
sorry
hours.
to those that are watching that golf. It just does not turn my crank. But
Uh,
but playing, like for me, it's like playfulness on the canvas. So as an artist, I often go, okay, and I have a commission. I have to paint this mountain scene before December 1st. And I'm like, okay, let's get serious here. And yet there's times when I need to just pull a canvas out and like paint on the canvas for fun. And I did that many times, and many times a beautiful painting emerged out of it. Anyways, just going and spreading, taking a color that appeals to me, a beautiful yellow or fluorescent pink, and just start to even finger paint on the canvas and play with it and just let go and stop. And this is the hardest thing for people to do when they come to me and I walk them through the process of intuitive painting. The hardest thing is to not create something purposefully. Just play.
the sheer joy
Just
of it. Yeah, for the
play. And I'll
shadow
watch
work.
them do, yeah, the first layers. And I'm like, let go of the control. Okay, now we're going to do another layer over top of this. What? Over top of it? I like it. No, let it go. We're going to do another play, just play. And it takes them a few layers of, okay, okay, like where this is cool. Oh, look at that. Look at that color, how it blend with the other color. Oh, look at how that brush stroke moved, like get out of your head and just play. And that's what I love doing for me.
Yeah, so something that comes up for me again when we're talking about letting go and releasing and surrendering in the year of completion is letting my little girl off the hook around having to be responsible for the whole world. And that it is she who has now the permission to play. I had a moment, excuse me, again, my nose is running from all the laughing. I had a moment quite a while ago where for me, a large part of many parts of my life, I've always felt like I'm on the outside looking in. And I think we've spoken about this sometime, we've spoken about being different a few times before, but I had this kind of, I was in meditation and I was sitting and felt like the poor little rich girl standing on the outside. You know that story where she's standing on the outside and everybody's having a wonderful Christmas and she's dressed in rags and she's standing on the outside looking in. And I have spent a lot of my life like that, where I've never really felt like I fitted in anywhere and always liked it. And the one day my inner child tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, she looked at me, she said, "You're looking in the wrong direction. Turn around and come and play with all of us in the garden."
Oh, that's beautiful.
That was where I knew she had been let off the responsibility that she carried as a little child.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
that's another example of things that we can bring to an ending and closure. And that is to just release our inner child from any sense of responsibility and wounding and giving her or him permission to play.
Oh my gosh, so much so. And I have a story to share with you that may actually, you reminded me of it, and it may actually be something that you take in too. One of my clients was again, she was very much in the scarcity and can't receive and struggling with that. And she went into a deep meditation with a one that I had actually was guiding her through, and she was standing in a river and the river was flowing towards her and oh no, she was standing in the river. She could feel the current pulling on her, and the the guide that she connected with told her, "You're standing the wrong way, turn around to receive." So then she was like just receiving from the river. It was flowing in and flowing in, right? That she was like constantly facing the wrong direction in the current. And when she could receive the flow of everything, all the abundance, and she could just flow down the river and not feel the pressure anymore. So, and I love that. So I love how your little girl said, like, you're looking the wrong way, turn around and see it from a different perspective. So,
And it requires a lot of trust. And so, using the analogy of the water and extending the story that you've just shared around the river, receiving the river is also lying back in the water and when we start to really understand what surrender is, it's floating in the water, where the
mm,
water is actually holding us. We fight it, but if we just relaxed into the water, we are held. And it's
yes,
very similar to that kind of energy is what surrender is really about. It's just letting go. You can't receive with
yeah.
fists that are closed. You can
And
only
that
receive
can
with hands
be,
that are open.
sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
that could be very revealing to what you're gripping to too, because I
Yep.
know I've done that meditation many times. I've also floated in clouds and there was a one meditation particularly where I was like, get in the boat and just let the boat float down the river. And there's like, oh, well, no, because like I'm going too far away. Like away from what? Right? Or you feel like you're being separated from from the ones you love, or you just, there's a fear of letting go. What is it that you're afraid of? Like identify that, and that becomes then, clearer for you to be able to say, oh, I didn't even realize I was gripping onto that. I don't need to do that. I'm good, right? Um,
And
and
so also new beginnings can't take root unless we've created space for them.
yeah,
And we can't create space for them if we're holding on to old things.
yes,
And it can even be clutter in our homes. If we're holding on to physical clutter, is another way. So another way that you can actually create space is by going through your home and getting rid of. I mean, some of the people who do decluttering are saying things that if you haven't used it for 6 months, it needs to go. Um, but there's also a whole lot of stuff that we hold on to. I mean, one of the things that's been really hard for me, and it still is, it still kind of gets me a little bit, as my daughter would say, gets me in the feels, is when my relationship with my sister collapsed. And I moved, we were all staying together. I had my mom with me. I was staying in this commune. My sister was with me. And it got so bad that I had to just leave. And one of the things that I didn't take with me were all my baby photographs. I have one.
wow,
So all of that still sits with me. That's quite hard. I mean, it's nobody's fault. It's just the fact that there's something that I'm still hanging on to, even though I have the pictures in my head, I'm still hanging on to that. So yeah, there's a little bit of clutter that I need to be getting rid of. I don't know. They maybe return to me one day. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, it's only my choice if I choose to hold on to that. It's nobody else's. And so that brings us into the choices that we need to make around what we are letting go of. And
yeah.
certainly my choice is today to bring in a whole lot more laughter and joy, because that's how I also connect with source and spirit, is through that laughter and joy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too. Definitely need to do that. And as we are releasing these old patterns, and I think that we are here, this time period right now, if you're alive here and you're listening to this is part of our journey, is to let go of these old ancestral patterns that have been ingrained within our bodies. And what I always come back to and I always think about is the fact that when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, you were already an egg within your mother's womb in your grandmother. And so to me that just is so clear of how much cellular memory comes
Very
down the line, and good and bad, right? Good and
good.
bad. We also need to reclaim the gifts that have been passed down, that have
Absolutely.
perhaps been pushed down, like intuition and like all of those psycho-spiritual gifts that our ancestries had have been cloaked and put under cover and not talked about because you didn't talk about that stuff. But there are
Yep.
things you could go into a meditation to reclaim those gifts and release the old patterns of what is no longer serving. So that you release first, like you said, to make room for the new, and bring it out into the light in a new way.
I
Um,
was at a meeting earlier on today, and one of the things that I was sharing on was the fact that I have truly, I think one of the biggest lessons that I have really embraced this year is the lesson of the space in between. And I've done a whole series, I think about 10 different Substack articles on different ways in which the space in between manifests itself. And it's that pause between the breath that is where I certainly have come to know my source and spirit and universe, God, whatever we want to call that energy and frequency. I've come to know it on such a deeper level, because we also there are making space for that frequency to enter into our energy and into our frequency. So yeah, and
yes.
that's also part of the Halloween energy, is it's about the space in between. If we talk about the veil is thin, it's that space in between again.
Yes.
Kind of brings
Oh,
us to almost full circle for
it
today.
does. That's perfect. I love it. I love it. So,
So we certainly hope that you've had an opportunity to laugh with us today, to experience some joy, and also to have a little bit of contemplation and thought around what it is that you want to bring to a close. I hope those, and it was a great question too, Janice, in terms of what are some of those examples of things that we can look at letting go. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
anything, comments for you before we wrap it up?
No, I just love the, letting go, surrendering, decluttering within you, decluttering around you, creating space for the fresh, new light energies that are coming through, and looking at your next level self.
Yeah.
So I love that. Thank you, Angela, so much.
Thank you to you too, and thank you everyone for joining us here. As our circle closes for now, the light remains, not just here, but within you. Let these teachings echo through your being like a lighthouse calls over the sea, steady, unwavering, and sovereign. Please share with us what touched your soul. Subscribe if you feel the call. And always remember you are the light, you are the way, and the circle will be here, continuing to hum when you need to return. Blessings be to each one of you. And
Love that.
namaste today. Thank you, everybody. Happy
Thank you.
Halloween.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Yeah, that was such fun.